Have you ever found yourself pondering whether it's truly the right move to marry again after 60? It's a question that can spark both excitement and uncertainty. Contrary to what some might assume, remarrying in your later years isn't just a simple extension of young love. It comes packed with new considerations, unexpected complications, and surprising rewards. These days, more and more people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond are choosing to tie the knot again, sometimes after a divorce, sometimes after a spouse passes on. But the real journey begins when you realize there's much more to it than simply exchanging vows. If you've ever wondered whether it's worth taking this leap, this script will walk you through the deeper realities that come with remarrying at this stage of life. Whether you're already planning to walk down the aisle or just exploring the idea, what you'll learn may shape your decisions in eye-opening ways. Keep listening until the end, because each section brings a fresh perspective on issues you might never see coming. From finances to family, from deep-seated emotions to legal details, there's a lot to unpack. This is about more than just wearing a ring. It's about protecting what you've built, staying true to who you are, and finding happiness in a chapter of life where you get to set your own rules. Let's dive straight in. When you were younger, you might have dreamed about marriage as a grand adventure of two becoming one. It often meant building a life from scratch, merging finances, raising children, sharing every holiday, and forging a future that was brand new to both of you. But when you're past 60, love and partnership can look radically different. You've had decades to figure out who you are, what you believe in, and how you prefer to live your life. You might have your own routines, waking up at a certain time, making that perfect cup of coffee, or dedicating your weekends to grandkids, or hobbies you've nurtured for years. Because of this independence, a new relationship after 60 isn't always about forging an identity together. Instead, it may revolve around appreciating each other's life experiences without feeling the need to completely merge everything. Maybe you enjoy having separate bank accounts, or you'd prefer living in the same neighborhood rather than the same house. To some, that sounds odd. To others, it's the ideal arrangement. This is where the concept of love in later years truly departs from the fairy tale version you might have believed in decades ago. At this stage, the chemistry that matters most is often emotional and intellectual compatibility. Looks and youthful energy might still draw you in, but you learn quickly that these aren't what keep you together in the long run. Instead, mutual respect for daily habits and an understanding of personal boundaries can matter more than romantic gestures. Whether it's the way you manage finances or how you value quiet evenings instead of parties, these smaller lifestyle details can make or break the relationship. You might find yourself asking, am I ready to share my personal space again? Or does my partner align with my current pace of life? The answers to these questions reveal whether your new partnership will feel comforting or confining. It's less about building an empire together and more about maintaining your sense of self while enjoying companionship with someone who truly values who you are. Money isn't everything, but when you're over 60, it often takes on added weight. You may have worked decades to build up savings, pensions, or assets intended for your children or grandchildren. Entering into a marriage at this point can change the structure of everything from social security benefits to estate planning. Many people assume love will conquer all. The truth is that failing to address financial realities can result in serious headaches later. One of the biggest surprises can come from social security. If you're receiving benefits based on a former spouse's work record, or even your own, getting remarried may affect those benefits. Some people have had their monthly checks reduced or revoked altogether, causing real stress in the new relationship. The same goes for pensions and retirement accounts, which might have been set up with your former spouse as the main beneficiary. When you remarry, those plans can automatically shift unless you actively revise them. Another vital concern is deciding whether to merge finances or keep them separate. Some couples jump right in and open joint bank accounts, but it's not always the wisest choice, especially if one person has more assets or debt. Many older couples choose yours, mine, and ours to maintain clarity. You might pool certain funds for shared bills, but keep individual accounts for personal expenses or for your kids' inheritance. It might feel unromantic to sift through your bank statements or meet with an accountant before you say, I do, but these are crucial steps to protect both you and your prospective spouse. A prenuptial agreement might also be on the table. Again, that's not something typically associated with a fairy tale romance. But when you're 60 plus, it can mean the difference between preserving a lifetime of careful saving and losing a large portion of your security because you wanted to trust love. Let's say you plan to leave specific assets, like the family home or precious heirlooms, to your children or grandchildren once you remarry. Your new spouse could legally have a claim to those assets unless you set up an estate plan that clarifies everyone's rights. This can be a highly charged emotional issue if your children are worried about losing part of their inheritance or if your new spouse feels sidelined. Stories abound of people who assumed their estate would naturally go to their kids, only to discover that default state laws placed the new spouse first in line. Some states have something called elective share, which means a surviving spouse can claim a percentage of the estate, even if the will says otherwise. So don't wait until it's too late. Consult a financial advisor or estate attorney early, so everyone knows where things stand. Remarrying after 60 doesn't just involve two people. In many cases, you're bringing together entire families, each with its own traditions, loyalties, and expectations. Adult children, in particular, can feel protective, especially if they see the new spouse as a potential threat to your well-being or your existing family's inheritance. They may have unresolved feelings about your previous relationship or worry that you're rushing into something that could later cause heartache. Contrary to popular belief, these concerns often come from a place of love rather than greed. Yes, some may worry about money, but more often they're simply concerned that you're stepping into an emotional or financial situation that might hurt you. At the same time, adult children can also fear that the memory of their other parent, whether deceased or divorced, will be overshadowed. Holiday gatherings can be the most complicated time of the year. You might have built decades of traditions, such as Thanksgiving dinners at your place, Christmas Eve with certain family rituals, or a summer cabin trip that's become an annual must. Introducing a new spouse can shake up that comfortable routine. Some family members may welcome the extra presents with open arms. Others might feel it's an intrusion or even an emotional betrayal. It's important to address these feelings openly. Let your children or other family members voice their concerns and find compromises where possible. Maybe you continue long-standing traditions, but tweak them slightly to include your new spouse in a way that doesn't feel forced or unnatural. On the flip side, maybe you adopt entirely new traditions that help unify both families in a shared experience. Grandchildren add a further dimension. If they've grown accustomed to you as the solo grandparent figure, they may be confused or uncertain about who this new person is. Will they be expected to call them grandpa or grandma? Do the grandkids have to split their holidays between multiple families? These questions can seem minor, but they're often the very things that affect children the most. A clear, gentle explanation about your new spouse's role can go a long way toward helping younger family members adjust. The best approach to family dynamics is transparent communication. Explain in respectful but firm ways why you're choosing to remarry and what your hopes are. Acknowledge that this is a big change for your family and invite them to share their feelings. Let them know their love and place in your life remain vital, but also clarify that you want to find companionship and happiness in your later years. By the time you reach your 60s, it's likely you have a host of life experiences that shaped who you are, some joyful, some painful. If you're remarrying after losing a spouse, there can be lingering grief or guilt about moving on. If you're divorced, you might carry fears of repeating old mistakes. These emotions don't just fade when you meet someone new. They can manifest in subtle ways, influencing how you communicate, how quickly you trust, or how you respond to disagreements. It's crucial to acknowledge these internal struggles. Many people who remarry after 60 feel conflicted. Part of them is thrilled to find companionship again, while another part worries about betraying the memory of a late spouse or about ignoring red flags that led to a past divorce. Recognizing these conflicting feelings is the first step to resolving them. Mature love often includes a deeper level of honesty. At this age, you might not have the patience for misunderstandings that could have been avoided through open dialogue. Take the time to discuss emotional triggers with your new partner. If you catch yourself reacting strongly to something they said, pause and reflect. Is this reaction rooted in past hurt? Share these insights with your partner so they understand the why behind your emotions. For example, if your first spouse often dismissed your opinions, you might become overly sensitive when your new partner disagrees with you. Without explanation, that sensitivity sensitivity can lead to conflict and confusion. But when you point out that a certain tone of voice or phrase reminds you of past hurt, your new spouse can adapt and show empathy. Likewise, encourage them to share their own vulnerabilities. Perhaps they went through a difficult divorce and still struggle with trust issues. Openness can foster deeper intimacy and build a solid emotional foundation for your later in life marriage. Another challenge is resisting the temptation to compare your new spouse to the old one, whether the old partner passed away or was part of a painful divorce. Even if the memory of your late spouse is precious, it's unfair to measure your new partner against that romanticized history. They're different individuals, and so are you at this stage of life. If you got divorced, you may also find yourself scanning your new spouse's behaviors for any hint of repeating patterns. While it's wise to remain aware, constant comparison can sabotage what could be a fulfilling partnership. Marriage is as much a legal arrangement as it is an emotional union. When you're in your 20s, you might not pay this fact much attention. Young couples often have fewer assets or less complex financial lives. But once you're over 60, the stakes are typically higher. You've had decades to accumulate property, retirement funds, or business interests. A marriage certificate can alter how all of those assets are controlled and eventually distributed. For instance, suppose you own a home outright. In some states, your spouse could automatically inherit a portion of it regardless of your will, unless you have legal structures in place that specify otherwise. This might be exactly what you want, or it might not be. The key is knowing that it can happen and preparing accordingly. While prenuptial agreements may still feel like a taboo topic, they're actually a sign of mutual respect in many later in life marriages. Far from undermining trust, a well-crafted prenup clarifies each person's rights and responsibilities, minimizing misunderstandings down the road. If you both agree to keep certain assets separate, it should be formally documented. If you have life insurance policies naming your children as beneficiaries, outline that in writing. In reality, prenuptial agreements aren't about expecting the worst. They're about acknowledging that life can be unpredictable. If something does go wrong, you'll both know exactly what to expect. This helps preserve goodwill and prevents messy legal battles that could erode the emotional bond you've worked so hard to build. Think about your medical future. Should an emergency occur, like a serious accident or an unforeseen illness, who will make decisions on your behalf if you're not able to speak for yourself? By default, a legal spouse often has top priority over adult children or siblings when it comes to medical decisions. If you want someone else to hold that power, you need to specify it in an advance directive or power of attorney document. This can be especially important in second or third marriages where adult children might have strong feelings about medical treatments. By setting up clear legal directives, you avoid putting your new spouse in a tense emotional conflict with your children. Everyone will understand your wishes because you've spelled them out in writing. If you had a will drawn up after your first marriage or after being widowed, it might automatically give certain assets to your previous spouse or might not reflect your new partnership. The same goes for retirement accounts and life insurance policies with named beneficiaries that you never got around to updating. The moment you decide you're serious about remarrying, it's wise to update or redo these documents. Remember, all these legal steps aren't meant to drain the romance. They're about creating a stable framework so you and your partner can focus on enjoying your life together, free of uncertainties that could later tear you apart. When you marry young, you're often healthy, energetic, and looking forward to a long, active life ahead. But in your 60s or beyond, you or your partner might already have health concerns. Maybe it's a chronic condition like diabetes or heart issues. Maybe one of you has limited mobility. While marrying someone you love can be a wonderful source of emotional support, it can also bring added responsibilities and stress if their health declines. Are you prepared to become a caregiver if your spouse's health worsens? Do you have the resources to hire help if neither of you can manage alone? These are heavy questions, but they're part of choosing to join lives in later years. It might feel uncomfortable to discuss medical issues openly, yet doing so ensures you both understand what you're signing up for. Even if you're both in excellent health, you've likely formed routines that feel comfortable and non-negotiable. Maybe you have a weekly bridge club or you volunteer at the local community center. Perhaps your morning routine is a sacred time for reading the newspaper quietly, and you don't want that disrupted. Or you thrive on traveling and worry your partner might not keep up. You don't have to sacrifice these routines when you remarry. The key is communicating openly. Some couples find that separate hobbies actually strengthen their relationship. You spend time pursuing individual passions, then come back together to share stories of your day. This fosters both independence and unity, a balance that can be especially appealing in later life marriages. Many people look forward to retirement as a time to do the things they never had a chance to do before. Travel the world, learn a new skill, or spend entire days gardening. However, your new spouse might have a different vision of retirement. They might be content staying close to home. Or perhaps you're the one who prefers a low-key life while your partner wants to jet off to exotic locations. It's easy to fall in love when you see each other on weekends or on short trips, but marriage means reconciling your daily rhythms. This is why it's helpful to discuss big lifestyle questions before you commit. How often do you want to travel? Will you pool money for that? Or does each person fund their own hobbies? Having these conversations up front prevents future arguments that could undermine the joy you hope to find together. Society can sometimes send the message that after a certain age, romance is no longer relevant. Or worse, that it's somehow inappropriate. This could come from relatives who say, "What's the point of marrying again?" Or even from friends who question why you'd bother with legalities at this stage. Let's be clear, age is not a barrier to love, companionship, or personal growth. In fact, many would argue that love can be richer and more meaningful later in life, precisely because you bring so many experiences and insights to the relationship. Don't let other people's judgments dictate your path. If you found someone who respects and understands you, and you both want to formalize your partnership, that is entirely your choice. Social stigmas usually stem from misunderstanding or outdated beliefs about what older adults can or should do. By confidently asserting your right to happiness, you pave the way for others to see that life doesn't end at 60. It can actually flourish in new directions. Countless couples find that remarrying in their later years allows them to focus on the here and now in a way they never could before. Children are grown, careers have slowed or ended, and you often have more time to devote to shared passions. Many discover new layers of themselves as they bond over travel, volunteer work, or creative pursuits they never had time for during their younger, busier decades. There's also a comforting sense of mutual support. You're both aware of the realities of aging, from health checks to the occasional ache or pain. This awareness can deepen your empathy and strengthen your bond. Rather than chasing external achievements, you're forging a quiet, enriching connection that values each day you spend together. Still, the joy of remarrying doesn't mean giving up your identity. In fact, maintaining your authentic self often leads to a healthier union. If you love traveling with friends or spending a week alone in the mountains, it's okay to continue doing that. If your new spouse has their own rituals, like a monthly outing with old pals, you can encourage them to keep it up. A strong later life marriage isn't about fusing together into one person. It's about celebrating two unique lives that happen to connect beautifully. As we come to the end of this exploration, take a moment to reflect on how each of these sections applies to your life. Have you considered the changing definition of love that focuses on independence and respect for personal routines? Are you prepared for the financial shifts that might occur, from Social Security adjustments to updating estate plans? Have you thought about how adult children and grandchildren might react, and whether you're ready to address their concerns thoughtfully and firmly? It's also worth pausing to consider the emotional dimension. Are you still carrying the weight of past grief or divorce? And are you willing to communicate those feelings openly with a new partner? On top of that, legal complexities like prenuptial agreements, advanced healthcare directives, and beneficiary updates may not feel romantic, but they can protect your peace of mind in ways that let love flourish rather than flounder. Finally, don't overlook your own health and lifestyle preferences. Ask yourself how you picture your daily life in the coming years and whether a new marriage enhances or restricts that vision. And if you worry about how society might judge your choices, remember that life at 60 and beyond can be an incredible time of growth and renewal. The only true barrier is allowing other people's perceptions to stifle your journey. At the end of the day, remarrying after 60 is about crafting a chapter that aligns with who you've become. Some people find immense joy in combining finances and living under one roof. Others prefer to maintain separate spaces or keep certain areas of their life distinct. The key is clarity, being honest with yourself, your partner, and your loved ones about your expectations and boundaries. If you choose to remarry, may it be a union that brings you comfort, companionship, and a deeper understanding of yourself. If you decide it's not for you, that's equally valid. This stage of life is about self-knowledge and the freedom to live on your own terms. Either way, the knowledge you've gained here will guide you to a decision rooted in wisdom rather than assumption. Thank you for reading through these insights. If even one part of this resonates or helps clarify your feelings, consider sharing your thoughts below. We'd love to hear what stood out to you and how you plan to apply it. And if you're looking for more guidance on navigating life's later chapters, whether in relationships, finances, or personal growth, feel free to subscribe and stay connected.